All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Crossing Swords. As always, I'm Andrew.
And as not always, I'm Andrew.
You're also Andrew.
I am also. This is the A-team, basically.
This is the A-team. I thought about like what we could call ourselves before you came over today, and I kept coming up with things like AA, AAA. Thought,
that's only if you get Ash or Alex in.
and then I was like, what would our tagline be if we were like AA? It would be like, feel the surge.
Oh, for God's sake.
Because like with this one, I was like, it had to be dirty. Like this one, it's the only podcast where touching tips isn't frowned upon.
Exactly.
So if at any point you just fancy touching tips, mate, you just got to say the word.
Are we not right now? Because mine's out.
Mine's not that long. Look, I've talked up a big game for my penis. But yeah, it's not reaching that far. I'm sort of slightly sat back from the table as well.
I was just impressed. I'm literally just like knobbing a doorknob at this point.
Yeah, more or less.
Basically.
You'd be very disappointed.
All very achieved with myself, you know. Any holes are gone.
No, it's good for you, but it's not good for me. It's not good for the self-esteem.
It's not good for the doorknob either.
It's why, in general, I'm just not into group sex. Like, it's not worth it.
Yeah, but at least in group sex, you can sort of be like, time out, right, I'm having a breather. You guys continue. I'm going to go get a drink.
Well, no, the good thing, I would just insist on going first. It's not going to last long, and then I can get out of the way and you guys can all enjoy yourselves.
I've got a 2 blast room, you know, so I'll start and I'll finish, right? I'll cap it either end.
I don't know about no, I don't want to be the last guy.
You're all there anyway.
I guess so.
Like,
no, but being last isn't the same as going first, is it? Let's be honest.
I think in my world, when I imagine an orgy, it's more simultaneous. It's not necessarily like dipping in and out.
I think how are you doing simultaneous? What sort of like yoga positions are you capable
you've
of?
You've got a couple of people that are all, you know, in a room with people all
well,
having
no,
sex
but it depends
people.
what sort of group sex we're talking about. If it's like, this is not how I expected this to start off. But if you're a group of men,
yeah,
and what we can only assume at this stage is a woman.
Isn't that a gangbang? That's not an orgy.
Same though?
No.
I
don't think
they're
so.
the same thing.
Because
like for me, group sex could categorise, you know, like a threesome, a foursome, you know, multiple like couples.
Yeah, but like I feel like the difference between a gangbang, which is like there's
but what if they're just running a train? That's not the same as
the love train.
Well, that's what it's called, isn't it? When you run a train, where just one after another. That's why I'm like, it's not the same going last in that situation. Do you know what I mean?
What's the rest of the guys doing? Just like standing around in the kitchen being like, you're right, Dave.
Just keeping themselves warm.
It's like the cricket, you know, when they got their tea, but you've only got to like pad up like when the next one goes.
Yeah.
What happens if the guy before,
well, I guess
there's so many questions.
If you say there's like 10 of you.
Fucking hell.
This poor woman. But she is consensual. I just want to put that across. Say there's 10 of you. I'd imagine past 5, you've probably not even got your clothes off. Do you know what I mean? If you're like number 6, you're probably chilling in a chair.
But what happens if like you're chilling out, right, and you're not in the room?
And all of a sudden it's
and
just your go.
They're like, Steve, come on, Steve.
Well, that's where like those instant rip-off clothes come in handy.
You've just been sitting there for 20 minutes with this erection, and then you've got to tug it.
Well, look, it all depends on what sort of man you are. Like, I'm the sort of guy, once it's time to go, it's time to go. Do you know what I mean?
I've only got a very short timer.
I'm like a Roman candle. Like, it's just in your face immediately and then just done.
I don't even know where I'd be on that one.
No.
To be honest.
No, that's fair enough. How have you been?
Been all right. You know, surviving.
Last time I saw you, you'd just got married.
Yes. It was a lovely day.
Sorry, I've got hay fever.
It's all right.
And I smoke.
Let's be fair. Knowing me, I'm probably going to like knock something over at some point. Or like whack
Yeah,
something.
I'm keeping an eye on not just your drink, but mine, even though it's the other side of the table. I can see you just getting animated and just smack.
Throw everything everywhere.
Yeah.
That's how I solve most problems, to be honest.
I find it, I still, like, I say this a lot to you. Like, whenever you do anything adult, right, I find it weird. I don't know why. I've always, I guess because you're younger than me for a start.
Right.
But, like you never used to have a beard. Do you know what I mean? I find that weird. You couldn't even grow facial hair at one stage. Do you know what I mean?
I still can't. This is just an illusion.
No, to be honest with you, I'm quite proud of you for growing that.
Yeah, but I don't dare like lift up my neck or like turn my head because like the amount of patches.
Really?
It's just
I've not noticed patches. It's looking good from here. That's all I'm saying.
This is what you get often from guests, but I'll show you the patches later.
Oh, that sounds like a threat and a promise.
It's whichever one you want it to be honest with you, mate.
I want both.
Okay, let's go.
Wicked.
What a start.
I'll tell you what, I just want to give a shout out on air. It was really nice seeing your parents at the wedding because it had been a really long time since I'd seen them. Both of them were drunk, by the way, I think from when I got there.
If it finishes in Y, then yeah, they'll be drunk.
But like, and I've known your parents since I was fairly young, to be fair. And like, your mum seen me like at my most vulnerable, like vomiting and shitting at the same time. But I didn't see your mum till the end of the night. But I saw your dad, and I'm chatting to him. And I'm like, he doesn't have a fucking Scooby-Doo who I am. And then maybe like an hour later, he was walking past me and going, "Oh fuck!"
I think that's just the early
and I thought you'd
dementia.
put him up to it, to be honest with you, because I think I'd said to you like, your dad doesn't. I could be anyone. And he immediately went, "Salad boy."
Yeah, then he came running up to me and went, "Guess who I found?" And I was like, "Who?" And he was like, "Salad Dodger." And I was like, he's been here for like 2 hours.
Yeah. I'd already spoken to him at that point.
I know. It's just, that's him now. He's basically early onset
I loved
dementia.
it. Like, I mean, one of the most, it might even be the most mortifying moment of my life. I think it was your 21st birthday party, and it was at the local social club. I don't even know if you'll remember it, but I walk into the hall, and I can't remember who I was with, but your dad spotted me immediately. And he just lifted up a bowl of salad and went, "Just for you, mate," like at the top of his lungs. And I was like, oh no.
My dad is just the master of the dad joke.
Yeah. And he's just a wind-up merchant.
Exactly. If he finds out about your wedding, I'm 100% he's going to send me there with a salad bowl to send you to give you as a wedding gift. Engraved.
Do you know what? I'd really appreciate a nice salad bowl. Is good for every home. Do you know what I mean?
I can tell him that Andrew is no longer the salad dodger. He wants a salad.
No, the Amula test. I do eat salad now. Not very often. No. Not very often, but I eat it.
That is personal growth.
Do you know what I mean? 100%. And then it was lovely seeing your mum, and she was so drunk by the time I spoke to her. But it was nice seeing it, and she immediately remembered when we went on holiday together, and when she was like, and I met the lady who owned the villa that we stayed in when we went on holiday together. I can't remember her name. Christine. She was lovely as well. And yeah, no, it was just a lovely opportunity to see your parents again.
Good. It was lovely to see you there.
Yeah. How are they doing though still? Are they all right?
Same old.
Yeah. Behaving themselves?
Yeah, pretty much.
One thing we could get into, because it's something you've mentioned to me a couple of times, and I don't fully know what's gone on with it, but is you've done cancer trials, or a trial.
Yeah. So my dad has had prostate cancer twice now. He's on his second stint. Yeah. He's got 3 little tumours. So he had prostate cancer, had the prostate removed, and then did like radiation treatment. And then he was clear for a number of years, and then it came back. So he's now got, where the remains of his prostate is, there's like 3 little tumours who we called Colin, Trevor, and Paul. Can
I just say it? That sounds completely like your dad to name his tumours.
So we named them, Paul, Colin, and Ted or whatever, for prostate cancer tumour. Right. As the letters. So he's got 3 of those, but he's all right. Like the doctor said to him,
is this going on currently?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that, mate.
It's all right. So the
because you know what? I'm so glad I asked about the cancer trial first, because I was going to make a joke at the start about being like, has your dad got cancer?
Yes, he has.
Yes, it turns out he does. So I'm glad I didn't do that. But anyway, sorry, you were telling me about the trial.
So Phil, on my dad, he's fine. Like the doctors said to him that basically he will die of old age or obesity before the tumours will get him. Okay. But it's sort of fueled off testosterone is like the main thing that fuels it. So he's now having women's hormones. So he's drink tablets. So he keeps running up to me and going, "I think it's my time of the month. My boobs hurt." Which is ironic, because if my mum hits menopause, he might have the most estrogen in the house at that point.
Yeah.
Which is wild to think.
That's an odd position to be in, isn't it?
Anyway, so he's had prostate cancer. My granddad had prostate cancer and then ended up dying of bone cancer. And
So it's in the family.
It's in the family. Like that's 3 generations in a row. So the Royal Marsden were doing gene testing. So they're trying to find the link between, is there certain genomes in the DNA
that can
sequence
be passed on
that make you more likely or more prone.
Okay.
So we did that about 2 years ago now. They had to take it away and then look at it 9 months later, and we had the sort of things like 9 months ago or something for that. So I am in the 61st percentile for getting
of likelihood.
Yeah, of likelihood, which is slightly above half.
Which, to be honest with you, if you watch like the Stand Up for Cancer stuff, they say 1 in 2 people.
Exactly.
So you're not actually that much higher than I am.
Yeah, exactly.
Or anyone else.
Yeah. So it's not bad. It's fine.
No, so like, that's still reasonable odds. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So they said that basically that I'm now technically discharged, not that I was taken in, but
right, okay.
Because they didn't want to talk to anyone unless you were in like the 90th percentile, as in top 10%.
Okay.
So
okay.
I'm well off that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
well, that's good news, I guess.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not great.
News.
I mean, it's still slightly higher odds, but
it's nothing. It's probably better. I thought I was going to be sort of 75, like top 25, like 1 in 4 chance or whatever, 3 in 4 chance. So, but yeah, so they took my blood and they run a load of tests, and they're going to keep using it for sort of testing for cancer. And if they find more genomes down the line that they think might, they'll then.
Did you have to sign lots of forms for this sort of stuff?
Yes, but it was more like because my dad, if you're a cancer patient, you can sort of put yourself forward for testing anyway. So they take a couple extra vials of your blood and for these sort of things. But
I think I'd probably be fine with that.
Yeah, but the main thing we were after was like they wanted generations where it was like have a track history of, and then someone who hasn't got it, so they can see if they can check. But it was something like I couldn't go in and do it until I was 30. So they literally like put me on the. They were like, oh, the trial is only looking from like 30, because they don't really care about prostate cancer when you're like under like 35, 40.
Why?
They just don't. They say it doesn't really appear then, even though the medical
no,
things
like 100% must appear for people younger.
Don't have to go get checked until you're 40.
Yeah, but then that's like most women, isn't it? 30 to have the smear. That's like their.
I feel like it's earlier than that. I feel that's 25.
So what when I hit 45?
No, 40.
40, I've got to go get fingered.
Yeah, so I'm getting checked because of my history. I'm going to go fast to be checked at 35.
In all seriousness, for any bloke listening, there is no shame in getting those checks done. I've not had to have it done, and look, I'm sure I'll feel uncomfortable about it.
Yeah.
But I mean, versus the risk reward rather is quite easy.
Yeah, and the key things are always the earlier you find these things with cancer.
Oh,
like
100%.
It massively
100%,
changes. Because, when you get it sort of later, when you start to talk like stage 3 and stage 4 sort of cancer, you are sort of, that's in the worry point.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
Well, I'm glad to hear your dad's got a positive prognosis, though.
It's technically negative now. He's got it again.
No, but they
I know what you mean.
Like my nan got it really late on in life. She had skin cancer, and they basically said a very similar thing to her of like, we're not worried about the cancer. You're going to die long before that's an issue, basically.
It is. It's scary. Like
100%.
Our downstairs neighbour, the sort of granddad or whatever, used to be around a lot, and sort of we've known him for a number of years, so we're quite good friends with him. And we saw him like around my birthday, so about Halloween, November.
Yeah.
He found out shortly after that, so you're talking middle of November, that he had lung cancer, and he was dead by Christmas.
Yeah. And must have caught it quite late on, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I don't really know the details, but it is scary.
No, I mean, there's very few people you meet now where they don't have someone, like Leanne's mum's had cancer twice. So like Leanne was eligible to be tested earlier and things like that. She's all fine. But no, it's very scary. I mean, my family, we've been quite clear of it, to be honest with you, other than my dad's mum, but hers was caused by, they just didn't wear sunscreen back in their day. And she got it when she was in her 80s, so.
You're doing all right. I need some of your blood then.
Yeah, I mean, like, it took a lot to kill my dad, to be fair. Like, he had quite a lot wrong with him, bless him. So we're quite a robust family, to be fair. But yeah, so no, we're doing all right, but no, I'm sorry to hear your dad got it again, though.
Yeah,
that sucks.
Yeah, it's one of them.
I'm really glad I didn't make the joke at the beginning.
Well, especially as for anyone who's listened earlier in earlier pods. I am the man who went when you found out. I think we put up something.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this when we had you in before, but I'm always happy to talk because it was just, I remember like just being like, what do you mean? Because basically I ran into, I think your mum and your dad on my way to work one day, and your dad was like, oh, I'm doing a lot better now. And I was like, oh, why? Was there something wrong? And he was like, did Andrew not tell you? And I was like, tell me what? And he was like, I had cancer. And I was like, no, he definitely didn't tell me that. And then when I almost confronted you about it, I was like, I think I must have said, like, I'm really sorry to hear your dad had that, but like, why didn't you? You were like, never asked.
The problem is, if someone goes, how are you? Do you want to go, yeah, I'm fine, I'm good, but my dad had cancer? Like, how does that...
Like, totally, because like, when my dad was dying, I don't think when anyone ever asked me how I was like, well, Dad's on his way out. Do you know what I mean? So no, I do understand that. But it was just that we never asked. And it's like, no, but what was the chances someone... I guess, I think the point you made was I could have said, like, how are your mum and dad doing? And then you would have told me.
And a bit like, well, saying that.
And also, it's not necessarily a nice thing to talk about either. It's not, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure you didn't like when your dad got you like when he found out, you weren't like sending out a group chat message or like a thread to everyone being like, Dad's got cancer.
Just get up and get like a choir bell. Hear ye. Just like ring. I would like to say that I stand up by that own assessment that I said, but like you literally asked me about a couple of minutes ago, how's your parents? And I said, yeah, they're fine.
Yeah. What? Yeah. So
Exactly.
Did you deliberately leave that to like drop on me on the pod?
No, I just...
So there you go. So actually...
I talk out my arse.
Yeah.
I just don't tell people.
No, look, to be honest with you, mate, if you'd have chosen not to tell me now, you could have told me the trial stuff. Do you know what I mean? Without, if you hadn't have wanted to, because it's not a nice thing to talk about. It's like, it's hard.
Yeah, it is. I think it was hard. It's hard the second time because we've sort of handled the process and we know how the process goes and like the diagnosis of like he probably won't die from it. And to be fair, with the way that he likes to eat and drink, he probably definitely won't. But like it's easier then, whereas sort of beforehand and you sort of like you don't know what's going on and
no, 100%.
It becomes a bit of a whirlwind because they got the 2-week referral rule. So if you're not sure and you think there might be cancer, they have 2 weeks to then they'll book you in priority within 2 weeks to do like testing for it.
Right. Okay.
And that's always the best way to go through because you will get seen and then you might not get the results of that for a couple of weeks, but they will get the test in sort of.
That must be a very long, like, month.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because you're worried about it, right?
100%. Because you don't know what the answer's going to be. You're hoping for something positive.
You know, and then, but that's sort of the start, and then it's sort of a bit whirlwind because they get you in and they start talking for options, and you're trying to figure out. What you don't know.
You're having treatment.
So the sort of game plan, sort of for the family around that situation, is just keep your hopes up. Like the stuff they're doing, and like every day that you're sort of not diagnosed, like your percentages are going up by like little bits because they're getting further on treatments and better with treatments. But yeah, it is scary. I'll be real.
No, 100%. I'm not surprised. How are you with opening up in general? Because like me and Jake talk about it, we really struggle with it. It's not a question I ask men a lot, to be honest with you, and I've known you a long time.
We're in that.
I'm not asking you to open up now. I'm just asking like how you are with that.
I am awful.
Yeah.
I do not. In the last, you know what I'm like, I just sit there and go, yeah, it's fine, and then just sort of move on, and then I sit there festering. Like you know,
I can totally relate to that.
We're in that weird gap of a generation where like sort of the people before us, it was like sort of societally didn't really accept it. So we have like a lot of feed of that, and then sort of as we were growing up, it sort of changed. So I remember sort of being young, it was like, don't do that, and then you sort of hit like 14, well for me it was probably about that 10 to 14-year-old, and suddenly it was like, oh no, it's okay to start talking about your feelings, and it started to shift, not like it is now. So we're in that weird thing where it's like we know we should, but we didn't grow up trying to do it, so we don't know really how properly.
See, it's funny because we went to the same school, and my experience was, and it might have been maybe because we were just that extra 2 or 3 years older, but like it was never all right to open up. Like in my year group, I think that started to change in sixth form. I mean, I had help at school because I had like, anger issues and shit like that. So I had counselling within the school. So that encouraged me to do it. But even to this day, after having counselling loads of times, it's still something I really struggle with.
Yeah, it's that feeling of you don't want to be vulnerable in front of someone else.
And
that trust.
The really weird thing about that is though, like I've got someone like, for me personally, Leanne, I feel completely comfortable with Leanne. I know there's nothing I could say to her that I would feel judged for what I say to her, but I still struggle to do it, and I don't know what that is.
I think for me it's more, I think it's a protection thing. Like, I would rather be like, I will deal with this and sort of isolate it to myself than, because I don't want to put the pressure on. Like,
No.
I feel like sort of, and you know, this might be a bit wrong, but this is sort of my thing. It's sort of my job is to sort of protect my family to a certain degree.
Yeah, I get that.
And I think it like deep roots itself inside that. I'd rather, and I know that like my wife will more than happily help me and, you know, do whatever, but I don't know, I sort of listen to her complaints and I'm like, she's got a lot going on. I don't want to then put that on her, like, as well, if you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
it's a bad way of looking at it, but
No, I mean, but the thing is, ultimately, and it's what I constantly have to tell myself as well, is that that's exactly what they're there for.
yeah.
And like, even like, and there's been times I've been really low, and like Leanne's needed me, and you still, and I'm sure you must do the same. And it'll be the same in reverse. There's times where she's really struggling and I'm then struggling, but she'll still, and that's like, sometimes you might have to be 100% of what the other person needs.
Yeah.
But other times it's completely the same. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I think it's really important to like share, particularly with your partner, because that is the person you can be most vulnerable with if you pick the right person. And from what I saw on the day of your wedding, you two seem incredibly happy. So I'm sure you have picked the right person.
She's all
And
right.
Donna seems lovely.
She's lovely. I'm the pain in the ass.
Oh, mate, with all due respect, the first time I met her was at the wedding reception. I have no doubt in my mind that that's the case. I've known you long enough to know that more or less any woman you might have ended up with, you would likely have been the pain in the ass.
Very few that would be the other way around.
Because I remember you when you were younger, you were like, I can't see myself ever getting married.
Yeah, I know.
But it's funny, like, what old-fashioned stuff sticks in your head, because like when you were talking about like being the protector, I'm exactly the same. And then I have the other thing in my head, like one of the main reasons I'd like to have children is because I want my family name to carry on. And if you actually think about it, it's one of the most ridiculous things you can come out with.
100%.
But like, there'll be a part of me that if I don't end up having kids, I reckon there'll always be like at least a small part of me that's like, I'm quite sad about that. And I can't tell you why I feel that way.
But that might be not necessarily society deep rooted. That might be like the old lizard party brain, the sort of drive for the population.
It's what's always been done, isn't it? Like the man has an heir and that heir carries his name, and it's like, yeah, but no one's going to remember you in a generation or two, so it doesn't fucking matter, does it?
Yeah, it's like what's your great grandparents' name?
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, that's a really good question.
But you know what I mean? Like that's the same sort of thing.
Well, yeah.
I think with the digital age and then the sort of change of like things like Facebook and stuff, it will always have some sort of, there'll be an extension of that, because you can just pull up a lot of the things nowadays we know from like our grandparents and stuff is you see the pictures, but because like your great grandparents or something weren't around when there were cameras, you know, even like black and white ones, you can't see that. I
find it weird when they turn them to colour now, because they do that, don't they?
I love that.
No, I find that freaks me the fuck out. Like, I'm like, what's going on there? I don't like it.
It's brilliant.
It's like when I see AI art and like what they can do now with AI, I'm like, no, what are we doing? Like, I feel like we're sleepwalking into a Terminator movie.
Skynet is coming.
And I'm just like, I was listening to something the other day, like there's fighter jets now that are flown by AI that in all the tests out to a human pilot with no problem every single time.
Well, they've had AI in they've had flights for years, like landing.
Well, I know, like a plane can take off and land on its own if it needs to, but like that felt quite simple. But finding out like a plane that could carry a nuke can just,
could you imagine
if it fancied it, just take off and just end it? Do you know what I mean?
Can you imagine in like 20 years' time when they remake a new Top Gun? And it's still like Maverick, but it's now like the TARDIS from Interstellar. It's just like a robot.
Yeah, TARDIS. Yeah. Oh yes.
The TARDIS from
I love that movie.
That's
by
him
the way.
with like Tom Cruise's face slapped on it, and it's like, yeah, it's still Tom Cruise, because like we own his name and face and all the rest of it, and we can do what we want.
That's a really weird thing, isn't it? Like the whole, like AI, right? Like what people are doing with AI to like basically reanimate dead people.
So you've got a few, haven't you? Because you've got is it Grand Morph in Who is it? It was in a Star Wars movie. I think it was in Rogue
Oh.
One. And the guy, he's like
one of the Sith dudes. I know he's not a Sith, but he's
like
part
the
of
general.
the Empire.
He's the general of like the fleet. He like
He's
flies
really
the
old
ship.
dude.
Yeah.
Shit, was he?
He's dead. He's been dead for years.
Oh fuck!
So his.
But they did it with
character-
Carrie Fisher as well, though, didn't they?
Yeah, but I think there was less because I think she died in production.
Yeah, but they did it for a bit of it, didn't they?
Whereas like he died like years ago. Like I think he died like 2000s or something. It was
I don't know
ago.
how I feel about that, to be honest with you. I find it weird. Like I'm waiting for them to do it with Fast and Furious and just bring back Paul Walker.
Well, they've already said so. Like a lot of the companies now, they own the because I think there was a lot of like strikes recently or in the last year with
the writers and the SAG-AFTRA strikes. Jake talks
and,
about those, yeah.
And a lot of that was down to if I play a character, if I play the next Batman and I do such a good job of it, technically in the contract that I sign, they own my footage, they own my likeness, they own everything
forever.
Yeah, but they can use that footage they recorded or get me in to do a load of dummy images and
to create more
and then
content.
they can make more content out of you and sign you out. So one of the things the writers and the actors were fighting about was having their rights on stuff like streaming services and for like the AI. So if they do use your likeness, you own it. So they have to then pay you like royalties for using you.
Do you know what just frightened me the most about all of that was the thought of how many more Avengers movies would they make if they could do that.
Avengers 59, Electric Boogaloo, and they're just all of them.
Oh my god, how many they'd remake the Star Wars trilogy but with all the actors again, wouldn't they?
But imagine if you know you get like the guy who's playing Kang, I can't remember his name.
Oh, Jonathan Majors.
Right. So imagine now if they use AI and like deep fakes and whatever
to
else.
just have him in the movie anyway.
No, but like remove him. So they re-release the old stuff, get the new actor in, do a scan of him, and then put him over the top of the old one. Well, why can't they? Because they can do it. They can replace people for footage. They can make new footage. So why can't they put it over the top of him? Could
they do that with like House of Cards with Kevin Spacey?
In the next 10 years, 100%.
I still watch that show, by the way.
I've never watched it.
Can I say something? You can feel guilt-free technically because he's been found not guilty.
I'm one step ahead.
But can I tell you something? I'd have kept watching it regardless because I still never watched the final season because he's not in it. But genuinely, I'd watch it. It's worth it. Just forget who he is and just...
Did you see the documentary that came out about Kevin Spacey?
No, I did listen to like this podcast about the trial and stuff, so I'm sort of aware of some of his behaviour.
I think Channel 5, it's 4 or 5, but I think they released a 3-part
I think my mum said she watched that. She said it was awful in terms of like the stuff he did.
Yeah. I watched the first one. I need to watch. I think there's 3 parts, so I need to watch the next 2. But I watched the first one, and me and Donna were like, "What is this? The stuff he gets away with is wild." It's basically his whole career. It starts off because he's had like a 50-year career or something.
Really, if he was English, he would have got a knighthood.
Yeah,
for acting. Like he's I think he's received like the highest honour you can get if you're not, basically, for like his service. I'm sure it's been rescinded. Yeah, but he did,
and apparently he's been doing it since like day one, basically. Like high school or something was one of the first.
I don't doubt it. Like I'm sure it's all. Yeah.
But sort of like going back to like the deepfake stuff, like it's sort of for me, sort of in my field of work. It's like the hot topic at the moment in terms of...
I'm not surprised. It's frightening.
So I work as sort of IT security engineer. So, sort of think hackers sort of things. But there's sort of 2 sides to that. You've got like red hat, which is like offense attacking. So pen testers, hackers. And then you've got blue hat or blue side, which is like defense. So it's like configuring stuff, shutting everything. So I work on the blue side. I'm not like the cooler.
You're not you're the Jedi, not the Sith.
Exactly. But a lot of those things now, because, if you think like a lot of them are like voice activated command lines, if you need to get a picture to prove you are who you say you are, nowadays they can like just do deep fakes and like do voice manipulation on top of the deep fakes and then make it look like they're talking sort of on Zoom to someone else.
Oh, that's frightening, man. Like, what can you do about that though? Like, can you stop it?
Not a lot. That's the sort of...
Is it like if someone releases a video, because like we've seen stuff of like you can be Barack Obama or whatever, like I don't know anything about IT, as will become apparent from what I'm about to say. I'm going to try and sound as technical as I possibly can, but like, is there a way to like trace it in the video file? If you know what I mean, like if you were to analyze the video as an IT person, would there be markers of like, oh yeah, this is AI generated?
Yeah,
or
they can prove those sorts of things, because I think there'll be lots of like edits and cuts and stuff that won't line up, and there'll be like sort of frames and stuff, so they can know that the root files are sort of edited, but like they wouldn't be able to like tell you necessarily who made it, or they could probably tell you from where, but if it's like an online website, then who. And
they're always bouncing this shit all over the place, aren't they?
Yeah. So
it's VPNs and the like.
VPN.
That's right. I know what a VPN is.
Well done.
I don't anymore. I don't pay for it. Just don't use one anymore.
I'm going to be honest with you, it's not necessarily worth it.
And I stopped downloading movies, and that was the only reason.
That was the reason. What? That wouldn't have helped you.
It made me feel better.
So you'd be better off using VPN.
And they didn't even work for Netflix properly. Like whenever I used one, Netflix will just pop up with, you're using a VPN, and then you can't use Netflix for a bit. And now they're permanently banning people, aren't they? So like, I was just like, I'm paying £80 a year for like absolutely naffle.
It's maybe worth it when you do like when you pay for something, like when you're putting your bank details in. But like a lot of those are like, when the little box comes up, a lot of those are like tunneled to your bank anyway, so it's sort of done in a secure connection anyway, so you don't have to worry. But it's one of those where it works if the data that you're dealing with is sort of like valuable to the point of like millions, then maybe do that. But like,
do you know with like data breaches and stuff, I don't really take them very seriously. I'm probably very stupid in feeling that way. But here's my argument, right? The amount of things that want your data, I can only do so much physically to stop that. Every website I go on, I make sure I do I'm ticking off, I'm seeing the vendor list, I'm doing all that.
Good boy.
Slows me down to fuck when I'm surfing the internet, but I do that. I watch Leanne on her phone, accept, and I'm like, I don't know how you're doing that.
So the problem that you get in terms of data breaches and why you should be worried. So say you've got 4 accounts. You've got your bank, right? Your email, Netflix, and like your little Facebook account, right? Or your email. If you put those details into like another website and it saves those credentials, and they get breached, if you've got the same password across all those accounts, they have access to every single one of your accounts. They just have to go figure out which one. So if if your email's the same, so they try and get into your bank account, and then they log into your emails with the same username and password. You get the little code that says you've changed your email address. Well, they're in the account anyway, waiting for it. So they're going to get to it before you do. And then that's how it sort of spreads.
My feeling on it, though, is it's coming at you from so many angles. I might as well not worry about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah and no. So the one of the best ways to resolve it is to get like a password manager.
Right.
So the recommendation generally is you should never have 2 passwords that are the same. So if you've got 3 accounts, none of those passwords should be the same. I don't do that. Yeah. That's to try and stop, my password and username has appeared in this data leak and they have access to all my accounts. Problem is, and everyone does it, I do it, you can't remember that many passwords, because you rock up to this website you use maybe once every 6 months, or you leave yourself signed in and it remembers you, and then 6 months later it goes, I need your password. How do you remember that? Well, you can't. So what you need to do is you have to pay for things that are like they're called password managers. So Dashlane, Bitwarden, sort of examples of that, where basically you remember the one password that gets into your vault, they call it, and then every time you create a new account, it generates a password and saves it for you.
Right, so you don't have to remember anything.
Yeah, and then you just go into it and you copy and paste the password out and put it in the thing. That's the only way you can get around it, because at least then the main password you use...
How much do these things cost now?
£6 a month or something.
I mean, to be fair, what it's protecting you from, that's not a lot of money, really. Considering, what is it for Netflix now, £16 a month?
Yeah. It's just one of those, it's nice to have. If you're worried about it, pay for it because it's worth it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think you'd be frightened. Do you use an iPhone?
Oh, no, I haven't. But someone literally showed me this the other day and I nearly
when it
had
tells you that all your... you don't want to see mine, mate.
So 2 of my friends, so let's see, like, we're going to play the high-low
No
game.
money's gone missing yet, mate. That's the way I look at it.
It's fine. So in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to be like there's a data breach and I'm fucked instantly. It depends on the data breach, actually. But it just increases the odds that you could get targeted, because it only takes like someone who gets one of these data breaches and then just tries
every single one
and then sees how many he can get into. Because then he's
and I'm sure there's programs that do that for them, aren't there?
Yeah, exactly. They just run a
thing.
They
don't have to physically sit there typing everything in or copy and pasting.
And it will just tell them which accounts have got it. You know, there's a
No,
billion.
look, I know I'm probably being very... And like, if I... Like, as of today, time of recording, Euro Millions is a lot this week. I've bought 2 lucky dips.
Oh.
In the event of... I think I would feel quite differently about the security of my bank account.
Yeah. But the problem is you get deep rooted. You've got all your accounts now. So if I said to you, get a password manager, you've still got to go into every single one of those accounts, change the password, and then put it in your password manager.
Oh no! See, they need to create something that will access it all for me and change it for me.
Then let's be fair, Sod's Law, you've got to put the password you remember in, and there's probably over the years you probably changed it a couple of times.
Oh no, totally. But they're variations on the same one.
You still got to remember.
Yeah. Oh no, like I tend to use the same one because I'm just like, because the problem is it's not about the amount of different things I need a password for. It's more the amount of devices I'm using these accounts on.
Yeah.
So like I haven't got a password rememberer that walks in my hat. Do you know, I haven't got it to hand. You know what I mean?
But yeah, there's some really scary things in like my field of work in terms of. So
what's the most frightening one?
So part of my one, it was sort of looking at. I read a book that was called Sandworm. It's a really good book, and it's talking about how hacking changed. So the one side that you don't really hear about much in terms of general media is the war between Ukraine and Russia has been going on for a long time.
Yeah,
and they've been using Ukraine as a sort of like cyber warfare testing ground to like develop tools that are attacking electrical devices and like physical devices in the world, and how can code sort of destroy the world. So there was one thing that was made when Iraq or Iran, there was the war in Afghanistan and Iraq, and one of them was trying to develop nuclear weapons, or they were not nuclear weapons, but they were trying to develop nuclear power because they said they wanted it for power.
It's definitely Iran.
So they worked out the controllers in a centrifuge, because to make the nuclear weapons, they've got to spin uranium in a centrifuge, and then they get the particles that make it go bang. They basically wrote a bit of code that only affected the controllers. And then what it did is it basically made the centrifuge spin out of control. At random points, it would just execute. So they put it on their network.
How are they doing? Oh, okay, through the Wi-Fi, basically.
Basically, they put it on their network.
That's the frightening thing, man. You just need a Wi-Fi connection.
Yeah, no, genuinely. It then moved laterally through the network to the point that it managed to get into the centrifuge. And then every so often, it like spun these centrifuges and basically got them to break themselves, because it just took off.
They didn't blow up.
No, they didn't break up, but they just ripped themselves apart. So then they kept pulling these old centrifuges out and then putting new ones in, trying to find the problem. You know, we're starting to get to the point now.
I like that. That's good though. That's quite badass.
And then there was another ransomware basically that was released, and it could encrypt whole networks in about 15 seconds.
What's a ransom?
So ransomware is it's like software that comes on. So when your laptop gets encrypted, and then it gets a big error message when all the data gets taken away, and then it has an error message saying you've been attacked. Like if you want your files back.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, so you can get a virus on there, and then it will then like encrypt all of your data so you can't get to it. And then say your data has been taken. If you want the key to unencrypt it, you have to send us like Bitcoin. Normally they go through Bitcoin for payment, because they can then tumble it. So you have to have, the only way around it is either you pay, but you know, are you going to
get a new laptop,
or you have to pull from backup all your data. So the laptop's fine because we can blow that away and then reinstall.
Can't they just do it again?
Yeah, they can. But the idea is you have backup somewhere, so you can pull that data down again. You haven't lost the data. So you only real defense around that.
Oh right. So if you're someone with like so if you're someone who has a laptop that has shit on it that we need, like someone who works for the government or for a security agency. Oh shit! I'm thinking like me. I'm like, well, what am I losing?
Well, it's same for you, but like
my save on FM.
if you have a laptop full of like photos, right? Like family photos, like say a load of photos from of your dad, for example. You can't get those back, right? If you don't have a backup and they get encrypted, you've lost them. So you either have to pay the money or hope you have a backup. The odds of
that's mean, isn't it?
It's exertion, it's blackmail. But it was really cool because they made this virus and it had 2 different exploits. So there was a patch that you could apply to a laptop, and that would fix it from one. But not every device on your network is going to be fully patched because it just never works like that. You can't get everyone in at the same time. It comes out once a month. So if you had the patch but the person next to you didn't, and you're on the same network, it could infect them and then move sideways across the next network using a different exploit that would get into your patch system. So you were fine from one attack, but the other one across the same network would just go and it would get on your laptop. So even if you hit 99%, that 0.1 or whatever, they'd get in there and then get everyone.
Shit.
And it was like knocking out like power stations. So the power was going out. It was attacking like ATMs.
And what can we do about this?
Wow, it's an arms race at the end of the day. But this is like that.
So is there no way to block someone doing that?
You can, but like you have to find how they're doing it, then fix it. But then your fix has probably got a hole in it somewhere, or there's a hole somewhere else.
So that's why it's an arms race. Whoever can figure out how to do these things, the faster and the better.
And it tends to be,
leg up.
Red team sort of finds an exploit, attacks it, compromises it. Blue team then fix the
so
hole.
You're never going to be ahead, basically.
You're never ahead, ever.
Oh, wow.
Just the way that it works. It's the field you work in.
The thing is, for someone not working in IT, I feel like my attitude towards it is sort of the best one. I'm just not going to worry about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like there's much I can... Like, I remember there's clips, I don't know what the guy's name is, but it's from a podcast called the Shaun Ryder podcast. And I couldn't watch it just because of the clips.
Yeah.
And it was this guy who was like a professional hacker. And with like random tiny device, he was hacking into this dude's house.
Yeah.
And he's like, I could turn off all of this equipment right now if I wanted to. I can pause it. I can whatever I want to do to you right now. And he was like, oh, I can't. No.
You know what the best part is? He probably looked up like what sound system, or if he had like a Wi-Fi device, and then probably just looked up the default username, admin password for it.
Shit.
And that's probably all he did.
And that's how they get in.
Well, it's
because it's connected to your Wi-Fi, isn't it?
If you've got...
So that's all they need is just one device that connects to the internet.
So if you've got
Why are we putting the Wi-Fi in everything, mate? This seems like this is what the issue is.
It's the Internet of Things. Everything is now needs to be connected.
But like people like have their toaster connected to their Wi-Fi. Why?
It just is.
No, but like, what I find confusing about that is unless you leave the house and leave your bread in the toaster waiting for you to flip a switch on your phone, I don't see what benefit you're getting from that.
The problem is you get some techie who's like, oh, I really want this because there's some reason.
Like if you had your heating connected to your Wi-Fi,
yeah, like
they're getting into your system because of the heating.
But then it's not just that, because most heatings, if it's connected to the internet, will have like a cloud portal somewhere.
So they're getting into the whole system, not just your house.
When we in IT, you sort of talk about like your surface area in terms of how many stuffs are connected to the internet, like where can you get hurt, because if it's out there,
like how much is vulnerable to it,
how much is your sort of outer wall. The more that you dig into it, the more you sit there and
it's making me itch.
And then genuinely you end up where you go, it's just not worth that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I feel like my attitude from the get-go when I see the myriad of warnings on my password page, I'm like, worst that's going to happen, I lose a month's wages, and then I'm just going to, then I'll sort it.
You're probably not wrong.
There's nothing they can really, I mean, they could probably like abuse my PayPal credit a little bit, buy themselves some iPads or something.
Well, the scary part is, so Ticketmaster got done. That had an incident, had a compromise. And they stole, what was it, 1.3 terabytes worth of username, passwords,
That's
addresses.
pretty much all of them, I'm assuming.
Credit card details.
'Cause that's a lot of data, isn't it?
Yeah. So, like, they're just running around with...
Now, I'm sure a large chunk of that stuff will be almost what you might call, like, historic data. Perhaps like people where none of that information's valid anymore. But they're a big company that's used a lot. They're getting a lot of people's shit.
Yeah, so keep an eye on your credit card
But what's
bills.
there, like, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but, like, in that sort of situation, how many people are actually going to end up getting stung by that? Do you know what I mean?
More than you probably want to know.
Yeah.
If I'm on it. Because something like that. I think they're putting up. I think it's up for sale, but I think it's like 500,000 if you want the full data set. But it only takes like.
Oh, they sell it on the black market.
On the
shit. So they're not exploiting it themselves. Oh, so they need to sell it as quick as possible, so then whoever's buying it can rip off the data.
So normally in hacks, it'll go in one or two ways. So you'll get a ransomware.
Never even thought about selling it.
You'll get a ransomware attack. So your data will get taken. They will then sort of blackmail the company. But at the same time they're doing the encryption, what they do is make a copy of it all and then pull it out at the same time. So they'll have a copy,
no matter what.
And then they will try and make the money out of you, but obviously they're criminals.
They're going to sell it on anyway.
They're going to sell it on anyway.
Shit.
So they're double bubble, but then they don't have to worry about the work.
And then you've just been bent over for nothing.
Yeah, pretty much.
So you might as well just let them leak it, take the fine, get a smack on the wrist, and sort your system out.
I hope you've done your GDPR, because what's that? The fine for GDPR.
Oh, is it not as?
It is.
I assumed it was going to be quite light, to be honest.
So it is either 365 million.
How big's Ticketmaster though?
Or 10%.
What, of the company?
Yeah, basically whatever the company makes, 10%. Whichever number is bigger number is your fine.
Yeah, but in the grand scheme of things, if you're a big I don't know what situation Ticketmaster's in, but if you did that to Amazon, Amazon's fine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but what are they? 121 billion? Could you imagine them getting a 12 point?
Jeff Bezos wipes his arse with 12 billion, mate.
That is true.
So, like, I know he doesn't own it anymore, but I know he pretty much still runs the gaff. Yeah. Like to these companies, 12 bill. What's 12 bill to Amazon? They'll make that back. Like Amazon, and particularly Amazon. The reason I chose them as an example is because their famous mentality was we'll lose money to make money. To gain the market share and to gain the customers, we'll lose as much money as it takes.
What was the time they clearly did that? It was diapers, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was diapers.com. It's a famous story where they went in to negotiate with Amazon for a deal, and while they're in the meeting, they started their own offer on Amazon for like 75% off nappies and membership, and like they were going to lose through the nose doing it. But then the stock price of diapers.com
just
crashed on, and they had their phones off, and they're just getting absolutely bent over. It's awful behaviour, but incredibly clever.
But that's how fundamentally that's how you become a billionaire. There shouldn't be billionaires.
Oh, it's ruthless. It's absolutely ruthless. He wanted the company to be called Relentless. That was the first name he wanted for Amazon, was Relentless.
Could you imagine?
And look at him now. He's fucking jacked. He's launching rockets. He's building weird clocks in the desert that's going to last 100 years. Like, the man's just doing what he wants. He lost half his fortune to his missus. And it's fine, mate.
Do you reckon that's what he does? Is he goes, I wonder what the time is, and then just drives out to this desert to look at this clock. And you're going to be there in 100 years.
I remember he there was a video on YouTube about it, of him talking about it. I think I clicked play and it got about 30 seconds, and I was like, I don't give a fuck why Jeff Bezos built a clock in the desert.
I don't care what any of those billionaires are up
to.
But
no, that's what I mean. If Ticketmaster's been sensible, they can. 300 million's not a lot, really.
Yeah, that GDPR fine has never been used.
No, well, look, clearly they think they're setting an example. If you want to set an example, but then you're telling me they can't really do much anyway.
Fundamentally.
So, unless they've been, if, I don't know the ins and outs of the case, but Ticketmaster might have been found to be not just not having done enough, but been negligent and didn't have any safety precautions in place, I'm assuming. And
yeah, if they set their main password to 1234, then they'll probably get that fine.
But is that not a case of so on the nose they're never gonna?
No.
Do they try? Is that the first thing?
So there's things out there called rainbow tables.
Okay.
And they're basically they're tables of known passwords that are common passwords, basically. Yeah. So I think the whole dictionary.
So they immediately get tried.
Oh, they just blitz through that. And same way programs, they don't have to type it in.
Would a really simple way to fix this, and I'm sure you're going to tell me no, is if you just put a limit on how many times someone can try and log into an account before they need to verify who they are.
Yeah, but that doesn't. On accounts that really high target ones, they'll just keep trying. They won't care. They'll just wait for that timer, and then that is a deterrent.
But if they block the account until that's resolved.
Yeah, but then if you're I don't know, Queen's Yahoo account, or whatever.
I don't think the
Gmail.
Queen was dealing with her Gmail account
You know what I mean?
or
Like,
her Yahoo.
could you imagine if she's like, "Oh, I can't send emails"?
And like, let's be honest, if they're sending her sensitive information via email, they're a bit fucking stupid, aren't they?
Yeah, well, you never know. She might
I'm
have loved
sure
it.
there's all sorts of stupidity that goes on in the higher echelon. I mean, we know it does, like with MPs sending, or like cabinet ministers sending classified documents out to people they shouldn't.
Who was it? Who's the evil one? Who's the proper evil
Is
woman?
it Suella?
Yeah, she got done for that.
Yeah,
She was
yeah.
like CCing like random people into like top secret documents.
Yeah, by mistake.
Oh, I remember reading about that, and like I was talking with my boss at work, and we were like,
Nothing happened, mate.
we would be like, "You're getting fired. These are classified documents. You can't
The
just
security
see."
services were like, you can't trust her.
Yeah, you 100%.
That's clearance gone, mate. And Rishi was like, no, it's all good, mate. It's absolutely fine. Crack on.
It just shows how
Everyone's human.
Is
Do you know what I mean?
that's not just being human. That's
Unless
just
they're foreign.
stupidity. That's just straight stupidity, and it just shows.
No, totally. But the thing is, clearly it was just a mistake. I don't think she was just willy-nilly sending out classified
No,
documents.
apparently, she's done it regularly. Apparently, it wasn't like a one-time thing. She'd done it multiple occasions. That's why they went.
Look, it's the last time I'll ever try and defend Suella Braverman. It's not a position I thought I'd be taking in this episode. No, I loved it. I wasn't expecting that to go on for.
What, you love Suella?
As we're talking about politics, how do you identify politically?
Not a Tory.
No, that's fair. So, would you describe yourself as left wing, far left, centre, like sort of? Just to give us a rough.
I don't really know. I'm left. I'm somewhere in that left field. Like,
so, like, if I said to you, universal basic income,
100%.
Yeah, so you're quite on the left then.
Yeah, like there should be social housing, and you know.
Look, you're not going to get any disagreement with me from those things. What informs your politics? Like what is behind those beliefs, and like those are things we should be doing? And
I think my mum's disabled, so, and like my parents both been working class, and sort of some of the family's been like sort of breadline, and I really hate this idea. The general idea that like there's too many people that are like frauding benefits, or like foreigners are nicking all the resources, and then like you walk around like the average council estate in our area, and it's all like,
see how little people actually have,
you know, and like half the people that are in there aren't foreign either. It's like, yeah, there's
No.
some. It's not like
no, most of them are. If they do come from somewhere else, they're like second, third, fourth generation. They're people that are as British as anyone. Even people. Just want to put it out there for anyone listening. I think anyone that chooses to live here, lead their life, raise their children, work, pay tax, I consider them as British as anyone in my eyes personally, regardless of where they come from.
I think they do. Yeah, there's always going to be that minority of people that ruin things and have this general stigma. But like, look at England fans abroad. Like, it's a minority that ends up being bellends, drinking in pubs and.
I've got to be honest with you. I've been on a lot of British holidays. I would argue, I think that it's a higher percentage than you think that are dickheads when they're abroad. I reckon 40%. I reckon
that is high.
I think men particularly. So I'd probably say 40% of men. Women can be just as bad though.
I think it depends. If you're going to like fucking like IB for like Magaluf.
Yeah. Those sort of places, Brits are awful.
Yeah.
I've been amongst them. I don't think I've ever behaved badly abroad personally, but locals might disagree.
Probably. I don't think it's that bad. I think you get the odd night, but you get the odd night from anyone.
Yeah.
Probably. I just don't think it's. I think a lot of it is a lack of knowledge. Is my thing. People are scared of stuff they don't really understand, and then they sort of just make overarching statements without sort of looking into it. And
I completely agree. I think what I find difficult with that though is there's no desire to look into it. So like if I hear something, I try now currently to look at someone, like even if it's something on the left that I agree with, I'm trying more to seek out what someone on the right might say about it, because quite often it's an angle where I'm like, okay, actually I don't agree, but I can understand where that position's coming from. And it's something like me and Jake have disagreed over a couple of times of like, I'm far more tolerant of ignorance and really shitty behaviour, like even racism. Not that I think I'm tolerant of racism, but I try to be more understanding about people that say that sort of shit than perhaps Jake is.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you don't bring anyone in by just sort of slapping them down and putting them on the fringes. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what you think about that.
I think that you end up in this weird line where education is the key. It's always education. Like,
Oh, no, totally.
But also you need the sort of collective to say that's not acceptable, because the second that you say, oh, it's okay, we can just all learn together, and then they just go, well, I don't want to learn.
Yeah.
Like, they need to basically, to an extent, be told it's not a choice to a certain extent.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Because otherwise they just go, oh, you're talking out your ass, and then it gets worse and worse and worse. And if you don't sort of have some sort of, come on, let's show you on the journey, it's so the things, but if you're not going to listen, then, you know, you're outcasting yourself, then.
And I think there'll always be those people that won't ever move. It's deep rooted, and you'll never be able to get through to them. But there's definitely lots of people, and we know people like it, that their opinions are based off of the people they're around and what they think, and their opinions have come from something their grandparent had said or their parents said. But like, I don't know, even like me and my dad's politics was quite different from one another.
Yeah.
But if I heard him say something, particularly as I got older, I felt almost a responsibility to like actually look into it. I didn't just want to hear what my dad said and go, oh yeah, I just agree with that. That makes my life easier.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it is tough though, because like you can there's so many angles. Everything's a spin. Everything's
and
an
the things
angle.
I get it, because like there's people we know and I see stuff they put online, and I want to quite often be like, well, just give your head a wobble, mate. Like, just think about what you're saying. And like, some of these people have children.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're raising a kid. Is that the attitude you'd like them to have? Or like, I've seen people I know with children be homophobic online or sexist. And I'm like, if you had a daughter or a gay son, would you want someone to be saying that to them? Because I know the answer to that, but they don't seem to.
I think my favourite thing is I always like to show the ridiculous end of their argument.
Yeah, I get that. Find the most extreme version of it, and sort of, or even the flip coin of it. And
you know, something like, you know, someone saying, well, I don't believe in trans, like, you know, you're born a woman. It's like, well, go look up Buff Angel and then tell me that that's a woman, because I'll tell you it's not, you know. And it's like, oh, Buck Angel.
See, I think for me, and this is completely from outside, I think it's both. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I think they were born what they were born, but they are also what they identify as. That's sort of where I fall down on it. And look, I don't understand it. Like, I can't understand it. I'm not in their head. I've not felt those things.
I think also like the pressure to go through a process like that, which is so stigmatized in society in general. The second that someone has gone through that process, had to fight those demons, has accepted it in themselves and moved on, you know what, mate? It's not that big a deal for you walking down the street. Just like move on with your life. Don't worry about it. Let them be happy.
Most trans people I've come across, you don't even necessarily know. Do you know what I mean? Some, yeah, but I would say for the most part, unless they, I remember back in the days when I used to be on dating apps, there was one trans woman that messaged me, and it said in their profile, and I actually didn't know what it meant at the time, so I had to Google it, and I was like, oh, okay. And I wasn't offended. I wasn't like disgusted. I was just like, it's just not for me. Yeah. I was like, but I really appreciate the message, and they were really happy that I'd not like cunted them off, basically.
I think they just want to be, they are people. They just want to be treated like everyone else. Totally. Like that's all they want. You know, they're not, if it's not affecting your day-to-day life in terms of, you know, them existing, like doesn't affect your day-to-day life, just move on.
On a lot of different issues, my attitude is sort of the same in terms of, as long as you're not hurting other people, as long as you know what you're doing and you've accepted like what that means for you, then who am I to say I disagree with that? Do you know what I mean? It's because for me, it's no different to like abortion. It should absolutely be up to a woman what they do with their body. So it should be the same for anyone with what they want to do with theirs.
You are clearly not American then.
No, no, quite. And to be honest with you, the worrying thing is that's even something that's like potentially an issue here, but I'd like to think it's not going to go backwards, but we have to be
so.
careful with these things. I'm sure there was a lot of people in America that didn't think it would go backwards.
Yeah, but I think the problem is it going to end up like an Ireland? Because Ireland was like that for a while. You couldn't have an abortion.
Yeah, true. But they've not long changed that, have they?
No, they haven't long changed that. I just don't. I think there'll be such an uproar about it. Like,
you don't think so?
The problem is fundamentally if you can ban it, but it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. And let's be fair, like, are you telling me some MP, like, you know, Hancock, when he was like tapping up the woman in the, you know, in the thing, if he accidentally,
when he was gripsing,
yeah,
but he was like, absolutely gripping that ass.
But he was like tapping that, right? So like, are you telling me he accidentally knocks her up, and then between the two of them, if they don't want it, they can't get rid of it? You're telling me with people with power and wealth aren't going to find a way around it? Well,
yeah, everyone still finds a way. That's where the problem is. It's what it opened the vulnerability women are in that situation in terms of what they're having to expose themselves to get it done, or the situation they're in if they're not able to.
100%.
Like, it's just, no, it doesn't bear thinking about for me. But yeah, back to the politics for a minute.
Where are you? Where are you on the scale? Where do you put yourself?
I mean, when I've talked to Jake about it before, like, most of my like ideals of like what I would like are things like universal basic income, like yourself, social housing, a welfare state that cares for people and looks after people. I'm very much in the camp of, even if it was like 20% fraud in benefits, there's still 80% of the people in it that are being benefited. I'm not saying then don't do anything to stop that, but it's still not a big deal. I'd still rather there was people getting help than not getting help. But we got a really strong message like during the last general election when Jeremy Corbyn was leader of Labour, because all the things he was promising were very like left ideals. It was renationalisation, free Wi-Fi for everyone, which got laughed at the time. Why would everyone need free Wi-Fi? And then like a year later, we're in a pandemic where millions of children didn't have Wi-Fi at home to learn when they couldn't go to school.
Yep.
Like, I genuinely believe, and the anti-Semitism thing, I'm sort of Team Corbyn, to be honest. I'm not saying he did everything perfectly, but I don't think he's anti-Semitic, and I don't think he should have been removed from Labour.
I think a lot of that was sort of certain papers blew it well out of proportion.
Totally.
And you can't tell me that the Tories haven't done like worse things.
Oh, 100%. And I've read reports into what he did as leader to try and combat it. And when you read it, there's not much more he could have done. Like the people that were in charge of dealing with it, that he was in charge of, just sat on their hands. And the minute he wasn't leader anymore, they stopped sitting on their hands all of a sudden and then started dealing with it again because they liked Sir Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
But Jeremy Corbyn was a shit political leader. But do I think we'd have been better off now, having had a left-wing Jeremy Corbyn government? Absolutely, I do. I think we'd be better economically. I think mortgages wouldn't be as they are now. Fuel bills wouldn't be how they are now. I think we'd be in a much better situation.
And I don't think as well, like a minor thing, but the amount of money that they paid for that, if Corbyn was in over COVID, that
track and trace
that ended up being like
billions upon billions
that David Cameron got in his pocket somewhere along the line.
Oh, all of them had their hands out for that.
I think that would be a nationalised project that the government would have paid for internally themselves. It wouldn't have gone out to a private contractor. Yeah. They would have got the people in, and it would not have cost that money, and it would have been a better working app.
I personally, from all the stuff I've seen of Corbyn in interviews, I think during COVID I don't think he would have been as reactionary as Boris Johnson. And I think he would have, and this would have been a massive improvement, been in the meetings. Like just that on its own would have helped massively. But no, in terms of how I ideally would like to see the world, I'm very on the left.
Yeah.
But it's not practical. Like people voted in their droves for Boris Johnson over that, and all Boris was promising was an oven-ready Brexit deal that wasn't ready for the oven at all, and he ended up just doing what Theresa May did, but just slightly different. But the people in their masses decided that was better than what Jeremy was offering, and I don't think the sentiment has changed enough. I think people want more socialism, but I don't think they're ready for UBI and stuff like that.
does it show how bad politics is at the moment that Boris is like left? What, like he's like left and then looking to come back in again, almost like swooping just around the election.
Yeah, I don't think he will get in. The problem is I don't see him being in opposition. Boris doesn't seem like the type of guy that could deal with not being the man.
Yeah.
Like not being the guy everyone comes to see every week, and the guy who gets to go sit with the monarch once a week, and also like he's doing all right at the moment. He's made something like I think 10 million since he stopped being prime minister. He's just bought some silly multi-million-pound mansion. He doesn't need the aggro. Like, and let's face it, he's just gonna fuck it up again if he does get his hands on power.
Hasn't he got like 5 kids or something from like 5 different women or something ridiculous?
You actually don't know how many. I've googled it before, and there's conflicting results over how many children that's man. I don't know if he knows how many children he's got.
But I like
there's
how
not a woman he's been married to that he hasn't fucked someone else and got them pregnant.
But it's like, I like how he didn't get chased out, but then Corbyn did for like he owned £1 million.
Well, he didn't get chased out of the Conservatives, but he got chased out of number 10 in the end.
Yeah.
Everyone turned on him, even Elliot Colburn, our local MP. Do you remember him from school?
Yeah, I kind of remember him.
Was he in your year?
No, I think he was a year below me.
Oh, right, okay. Because I don't remember him being a bad guy or.
No, he was fine, but like.
I don't necessarily think he's a bad guy now, but he's a Tory.
Oh, well, yeah, but Ira is a bit weird because it's like, look, biggest council estate in Europe is St Helier Estate.
Is it actually?
I think it is.
In Europe?
I think so. It's massive. It's the whole sort of, all from St Helier all the way round to the Circle. All
then
that.
Towards Morden, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's all that.
Shit.
So it's massive. But you've got that, and then there's some really nice, because Banstead's around the corner, and you've got some really nice roads.
Well, like even here, this road's really expensive,
yeah.
and then there's a council estate literally just over there. So, and then in Hatbridge, near from here, that was all council estate. That's all being built up now. They've knocked down the council estates, turfed everyone out.
Those are like £400,000.
Oh, mate, they're mental.
Ridiculous money.
Yeah, and it's a bit dodgy. They've got a school in the middle of one of the complexes, and it's like, well, you know who's buying all the playground facing apartments.
Yeah, a little balcony.
That seems like a design flaw to me. You're going to need a covered playground.
Just turn it into like the bubble.
Yeah.
Just slowly heat up as well in the summer.
Do you know who you're voting for in the next general election?
I'm tactical voting.
Yeah, me too. Are we in the same constituency?
Yeah.
Are you Carshalton and Wallington?
Yeah.
Right,
no.
Cool. All right, so you've got Elliot as well, because it's Bobby Dean is the...
I have no idea.
If you look up, I did it the other day, it's stopthetories.vote.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if you put in your postcode, it will tell you
which one.
And I did it the other day, and it was Bobby Dean for the Lib Dems. And they actually said they think Labour will come second, but it's quite close between Labour and the Conservatives. But yeah, the safe bet is...
Yeah, I think it's one of those moments where it's like, we just don't want Tories. Like, I don't care.
And I actually saw a nice interview with the leader of the Lib Dems the other day, because I sort of took the piss out of him, I think, last week with Jake, because all of his press since the election has been him doing goofy shit.
Oh, God.
Like paddle boarding, falling over in the water, going down ridiculously steep hills on bikes, looking like an absolute knob, going down water slides and all sorts. So he's like just looking like a bit of... But he did an interview, and his son's got quite extreme special needs. He requires full-time care. And he was talking about that he's scared for when he's no longer around, like who's going to look after his son, because no one's going to be able to look after him the way his dad can. And he started like choking up, and I was like, actually, as a human being that, you know, loves his son, I can get behind that at the very least.
Here's the problem, though, and this is probably the cynic in me, is like, if so he uses that storm story, say he wins, whatever, he probably won't, but say he wins, like he's going to be on PM money, so like every PM gets paid full salary for like the rest of their life anyway. Like, yeah, that child is never
well, he's not going to become PM.
But if he did, that child will never need to worry, because he's going to have so much money anyway. Because, like, as they say, like, if you're not a millionaire within a year, like, you're doing it right.
No, as the PM, it's a bit different, because you can't... I mean, I say that Rishi Sunak's been doing deals left and right. I was about to say you can't really make that, but he's not direct. It's through his wife. It's through other, like, subsidiaries and all that shit. But, like, yeah, ultimately, like, in the last year, Rishi Sunak and his wife's fortune's gone up 120 million. So I was about to say PMs don't traditionally make money.
So, like your wife...
But prior to him, you made your money post being PM. it's from having been Prime Minister. Yeah, you get that salary, but that is like quite small fry compared to the speeches, the consultancies, all that sort of shit. Like Tony Blair makes millions a year, and we pay for his travel everywhere he goes. So yeah, no, that's mental.
Do you reckon that goes to Liz Truss? Do you reckon she's getting the speeches now? She's like, I was a PM.
Well, of course. It's just from bit like, for some reason, I mean, she certainly shouldn't get. 40, I don't think, days. Perhaps she's not getting as much as Boris Johnson or someone like that.
Could you imagine getting her in for a speech and then when she stands up there, you just put a lettuce next to her?
What do you think about, like, when people, like, say you were out and about and, I don't know, Rishi Sunak is in the area, like, canvassing people, like, trying to get votes. If he came over, would you get a photo with him?
No.
No, I wouldn't even want to talk to him, to be honest with you. Like, and I know people that have actually ran into him and taken a photo with him, and then they're putting it on Instagram, and you're like, why are you doing that? Like, no one's impressed you've met Rishi Sunak.
Who cares?
Like, and I feel that way sort of similarly about any of the Tory prime ministers. To be honest, there's not many of them. Where like even if Theresa May, like, why do you want a photo with Theresa May? Do you know what I mean? And she's like the least objectable out of the most recent one.
Yeah, that's because she wasn't there long enough. She was literally there for like a month.
No, that's Liz Truss.
I was there.
Yeah, Theresa May. I think she had a good couple of years. Bless her.
She was the start of Brexit, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was never going to do well. Bless her. The fields of wheat done her in.
It's just one of those. Like,
I don't even know if I'd take a photo with Keir Starmer. Do you know what I mean? I'd talk to Keir Starmer, but I don't know if I'd.
They're politicians at the end of that. I don't really see politicians as celebrities, particularly, if I'm honest with you. Like,
I remember once, because I didn't used to see him that often, the MP we had before Elliot, Tom Brake.
Oh, Tom Brake.
I ran into him a few times, and I remember thinking, oh, this is someone important almost. Like, he had an air of, like, he had a bit of a presence to him, like. Whereas I went to a charity event and I was sat next to Elliot, and it was one of the most awkward things ever. He didn't really, like, he was friendly, but like, we barely spoke, and he just chatted to the people he was with, basically. I mean, he was there for the whole thing, but yeah, it was awkward. There was no.
I think just look at like the Nigel Farage thing. Like, fundamentally, they're out because they're on the PR machine wagon. Yeah. So like the second that you start taking like photos with them, it's all benefiting.
You're feeding it for them.
You're free advertising, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's the same reason that Farage, that whole like dance about like you can't keep the milkshake away after you got thrown, because it gets it out there. So the more and then
he's doing a TikTok with him drinking a McDonald's milkshake afterwards, and you're like,
you just fed it. Like, you're better off just being like, you were irrelevant to me and just ignoring them.
Yeah. What do you think about people doing stuff like that? Like, because I'm not a big fan of it, if I'm being honest.
Like I said, like, I think it just, a lot of the time it just fuels their sort of fire. It puts, you know,
you're giving them more attention than they would have got for that day if you hadn't done it. Do you know what I mean?
It's all news is good news, or something like that.
All publicity is good publicity.
And that's all you're doing. Like, you're just fundamentally funneling them, you know. And then, like you said, he gets to make a TikTok, he gets to make puns about it. Yeah. You know, he grows out there.
All he did was he like wiped himself down, gave his hair a quick zhuzh, and then he was back out there again. And it almost makes him look, oh, look at him, he didn't let it get him down. And
who was the one who got an egg thrown at them? Was it Ed Balls? One of them got eggs thrown at him, and then he like caught it, threw it back, and tried to punch the person.
Oh, really? Yeah. Was that that
was back in Tory?
That was Prescott, maybe.
Oh, I think it was Prescott. I think that was back in the Tony Blair era.
Yeah, but then Gordon Brown called a woman a bigoted bitch or something, didn't he? He got done.
That was hilarious when you have to, like, Tony Blair's the sort of guy who's been probably, arguably for me, is probably the biggest name I remember in politics.
Well, yeah, he was the Prime Minister for the majority of our childhood, I would have said. Because he was like 12 years, I think he was in power. Until he was not.
And then he left, and then Gordon Brown comes up and goes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really remember much about politics back then, but I just remember maybe when I got to like 18 as I started to become more politically engaged, and I was just like, you can tell the country's like just worse off. Yeah. Like, you could feel it, and like, and I now don't remember a time where it didn't feel like the country was getting worse. Do you know what I mean? It feels like that's been going on for so long now.
Well,
And me and Jake joke about it that like after a little bit we're like we don't even want to talk about politics for a while because we're like it's just fucking depressing.
It feels like, what is it, 2008 was the global economic crash.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's never really recovered.
Well, I don't think it has, and I think part of that is because the people responsible weren't held to account. Like, we should have let those banks go out of business. We should have then refought the whole system, because that was the problem. They were like, well, if we let these banks fail, the whole system fails. It's like, well, fucking let it fail, mate. That's the whole point. It's like, if this doesn't work, we need to figure out what does.
You know,
And like as we know, the gap gets wider, and what frightens me is like the public sentiment to help the public seems as low as it's ever been. Like
they need to do something in housing, because the way that it's moving now, like
it's insane, mate.
We bought a house. So we bought a house in the last year, and it is horrendous.
I got to be honest with you. I remember you telling me when you were getting ready to. I was like, why? Like it feels like the worst time possible. I get like, if now's the moment you can afford to do it, you need to sort of just do it.
You can do it.
Because in a year's time, you might not be able to. The prices might have gone up.
Well, it's one of those, when we jumped in, it was sort of literally we were jumping in, and then I think we sort of put the offer in the February. We were waiting for it to go through, and you get a mortgage in principle. It only lasts so long, and there's like a 6 month sort of window
when the offer's still valid.
So if you don't complete in that time, we would have had to go and get a new mortgage and done that again, and we would not have been able to buy, because the interest rates would have gone up to a point where it would have been like another few £100 a month on top. But the numbers are scary, and I was talking to my parents about it, and they were like, "Oh, it was hard for us, you know."
Yeah, but it wasn't this. It was not this.
And the thing that I keep saying to them is like, yeah, but like neither of you had a degree in any way, shape, or form. Like my dad can barely read and write at the best of times. He's really good at plumbing. He's like so good,
yeah,
but like
dyslexic.
He can't read or write.
Yeah.
And like my mum was like a nurse basically, so she's not on a high wage, but they could afford to do it even at a high interest rate. And I think they bought their place for like 100,000 or something like that. But between them, they were probably making like, it was only like, they're probably between them probably making about 50,000 total.
I think back in the day, I think we're talking like 25 years ago, the average house price was, or the average deposit was 3 times the average wage for the household. And now it's over 8 times.
Yeah.
So, yes, I'm sure people had to work hard to afford homes back then. But I know, just like from where I live currently, my parents, what they paid for it to what it's worth now, I think the value's gone up 10 times in terms of from when they first moved in here to now.
And I'm quite lucky. I went off and I got sort of a qualified like technical sort of job, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily in that labour market in terms of the like low skilled. I'm in the high skilled job, so I'm lucky. But
if people like you are struggling,
and how is 2 people that work at say McDonald's or clean the streets or Tesco's, how can they afford?
The answer is they can't.
Exactly. But everyone's like, oh, but we don't need to sort out the bottom line, and fundamentally, like, we don't want to trap a class of people that are on the breadline that like struggle, and then add into that what happens if you're severely disabled and on benefits. And you can get like a council home, but there's only so many of them to go around, because they're not making more, because they sold a load off with the Tories and Theresa Margaret Thatcher,
and then never built in a new one.
Never built replacement. But our population is increasing.
Although the birth rate is dropping.
Yes, 0.8.
Yeah, the amount of people having children is because people can't afford to have kids either.
Because it takes 2 people now to have a career, to be able to have a family, to even afford it, and then you're getting to the point where to get a career you sort of have to work for 10 years. You've got to leave 21, sort of 31, and then you can be like, oh, I'm settled, I can have a kid now.
And that's if you've had a life where by the time you hit age 21. You've not only already figured out what you want to do, but you've already taken most of the steps to be in the right position. And like, how many people actually do that? And even people I know and that have got good jobs and earn good money, they only were able to buy their first place because their parents were in a fortunate enough position to lend them at least a portion of the deposit to get their first place. And that's not slagging them off. It's just I wouldn't have an issue with it if my parents were in that position.
And that's just where certain situations are better than others.
Yeah, no, 100%. But it's why I think fundamentally the only solution to a lot of this stuff, because none of the system's going to change. it can only be stuff like universal basic income, where you give people enough money to, for the most part, sustain themselves.
The only problem that I have with universal basic income is if you do not lock down and regulate the amount, not inflation, but like the amount of people, like how many properties people can own and rent out. If they don't regulate that in some way or find an alternative,
the best way to regulate that is through tax. So, like, the more property you own, the higher rate of tax you pay on the income.
Yeah, or you know, and then fund that back into putting up sort of social health, like social housing, where, you know, it's a choice. Because there's places like Austria that I think it's like 60% of their population's in social housing, so 40% own their own homes. But if you've got that situation in which there's enough social to sort of help people out,
and that's absolutely fine.
The rental market suddenly disappears, because it's then people who want to pay to rent a home, and suddenly it's not an asset anymore. Like, they're like, well, I've got to maintain it, I've got to cover those costs, it's not going up as much as I want. Suddenly people walk out that market, and then house prices will drop.
Yeah.
And then I'll be in a bad situation because my house price will cut it off,
and your
I'll be
mortgage,
like,
you're in negative equity.
But, you know, sometimes that's just the way that it will be. But if they did something like that, they would definitely need to do some sort of relief to tide back some of that money to wipe those off from those sort of measures. But
I'm cool with that. But
I don't think they would do it.
No, they're not going to. That's the worrying thing going forward, is there's nothing on the table currently to, like, make any of us feel better about the future. We're basically just going, please let something nice happen.
Please, sir, can I have some more?
Please, just don't let us all go bankrupt.
Oh, okay.
We don't all want to be homeless.
It's all right, Mr. Ritchie. You can take your next Bentley.
Do you know what I mean? But no, like, I mean, I'm in a fortunate position that I will inherit a bit of money one day. Not like generational wealth, but like enough that me and Leanne will be able to buy a place, not in London, but we'll be able to buy a place somewhere when we're older.
But almost everyone that I know that grew up around here has moved out.
Well, because they can't afford to live around
here. My best man literally made the joke of, I'm the last one here, and I've luckily managed to buy a house, but it's the smallest house we could pretty much afford, and the numbers on it just make me feel sick when I think about it.
What, for what you've got in, you mean?
How much it cost us for what my monthly repayments is compared to what I've bought. And then I look at friends who have got like 4-bedroom detached houses.
And they live an hour outside of London.
Or, you know, a couple of hours away or something. And it's like, oh yeah, it's only like another like 50 grand on top of what I've paid. And I could have 4-bedroom detached house instead of a 2-bedroom.
Well, a shout out to two of the lovely people I met at your wedding, Jack and Amy. Yeah. Is it Jack and Amy?
Yeah.
And they were saying, if you want to live in Middlesbrough, they said don't live in Middlesbrough, by the way. But you could get a 4-bed place for like 70 grand. And I was like, I don't know how bad a place has to be that I wouldn't be comfortable with a 4-bed 70 grand house.
I tried to wind up Ray, because I think his other half, Adele's parents were selling their house, and it was like 250,000 for this 4-bedroom behemoth of a house. It's like the most expensive house in the street. I was going to wind him up and be like, I bought your missus' parents' house. I'm in their bedroom, and just wind him up.
Yeah. Sadly, you're not though.
I know.
You're not far from here.
No, not far from here.
But look, mate, do you know what? What we'll finish off on, how does it feel being the first guest host on Crossing Swords? Because we haven't actually addressed that at all, by the way. I meant to do that quite early on. But we just got stuck in, and I've had a nice chat with you.
It's been nice.
How does it feel being the first guest?
It feels lovely. And this is where I get banned now for never coming back again.
No, I think you'll be fine. I think you'll be back.
Hi, Jake.
Yeah, hi, mate. How you doing? Hope you're enjoying your travels. Yeah, because for anyone who didn't listen to the episode, it's called Who Built the Pyramids, if you want to go back and listen to it. Jake has started a new job where he's going to be travelling for weeks at a time at points. And so the show must go on, and I'm going to be having guests on, like this gentleman in front of me here, Andrew. And I've already reached out to some of our other mutual friends. You'll be seeing them appear at some point soon. But yeah, and also if anyone knows me and would like to be on the podcast, please reach out, because I'm going to need guests.
Now's the time.
Now is the time. The time is nigh. And the thing is, it's not the same as when like we have me, you and Jake, because we're not tying up 3 people's. It was just a matter of, I've just got to be available for when you were free. Do you know what I mean? And fortunately, luckily, it matched up immediately. So it was nice and easy.
Thank you very much for having me.
That's all right, mate. Guys, I'm not going to try and get Lil to read out our socials, because I know what the answer will be. He's not done any preparation. He doesn't know what the socials are.
I have literally brought the same energy as Jake. I don't know what's going on.
No, and you've not come prepared.
Exactly.
But you can find us on Facebook. It'll be here on the screen. Andrew, wave on the screen because I'll align the graphics with your hands. You can find us on Facebook at Crossing Swords, Twitter at Swords Crossing, on TikTok and Instagram at Crossing Swords _podcast. You can stop the hands if you want. And you can email us at crossingswords19@gmail.com. Check out our TikTok, check out all of it, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. And you as well, by the way. Now you've been on, I expect some retweeting and liking to go on. And I don't care what you think your family and colleagues and everybody will think.
I don't think I have a Twitter.
Do you not have a Twitter?
I don't have a Twitter.
That's probably a sign that you don't, because I don't think it's called a Twitter. I don't think it was ever called a Twitter.
That's the way I want to call it, though. I ain't calling it X. Fuck that.
I might start doing this thing. There's a podcast I like where, like, when they do the intro, they'll name the two people and they'll put like a graphic on the screen to say this is it's Ollie Dugmore, it's Joe Politics, and it will say something funny underneath. So I might start putting like Andrew. What was it you just sent to me?
Has a Twitter.
Has a Twitter. No, but does not have a Twitter. And then I'll put Big. Definitely has a Twitter.
That sounds like a plan.
Do you know what I mean? But guys, thank you for listening. Andrew, thank you for coming. And we'll see you soon.
Goodbye.